So my name is Arthur Theil. I'm a senior lecturer in human-computer interaction at Birmingham City University. And I'll be presenting some of the results from our pilot project called Inclusive FinTech, Co-Creating Inclusive Future Financial Technologies with Disabled Communities. This project is a collaboration between BCU, me and Cyan, who is there as well and presented his other project this morning, and Virgin Money. So, next slide, please. Right, so the main goal of our project was to co-create actionable recommendations for making financial technologies more inclusive for disabled users. In the UK, 25% of the population has one or more disabilities. However, most financial technologies do not include accessibility as a core requirement. So we wanted to change that, and we wanted to co-design, co-create future possibilities and involve disabled users as experts by experience in this process. And in order to do that, in these 4 months, we conducted 2 online workshops to better understand the experiences of disabled users when using financial technologies, using technologies for personal banking, and how to create solutions that are more inclusive and accessible. So one key aspect of this project, this was a collaboration with Virgin Money's human-centered design team. Recently, Virgin Money has been acquired by Nationwide, and now together Nationwide and Virgin Money, they do have more than 20 million users and customers. So for them, making their financial products more accessible was really important. So we were very lucky to have this industry partner as part of the project, because we could see that they truly believed that accessibility should be a core requirement in financial technologies. And as part of this project, we collaborated with the entire human-centered design team. So we collaborated with user researchers, so the people responsible for understanding user behavior, content designers, so the people responsible for designing financial content, financial information, and how this should be displayed to different customers. Product designers, so the ones responsible for designing the actual interaction and the user interface, and also developers. So in terms of research participants and our approach in this project, we engaged with 88 disabled individuals across the UK through online surveys. And after our initial review and screening, we invited around 20 participants to be part of these workshops, co-design workshops. And based on that, on full-day activities, group discussions, and really trying to understand their individual experiences with financial technologies, we conducted a reflexive thematic analysis to gather findings and takeaways. So some of the results, in terms of current practices, we found that most of our participants, they exclusively use apps and websites to use so basically what we found is that most of our participants, they exclusively use apps and websites to manage their finances. Specifically apps, because if you are aware with smartphones, today, most smartphones, they have multiple accessibility features. So this was something that most of our participants appreciated. We also found that there were many accessibility barriers that we didn't think about. In terms of identity confirmation and biometric authentication, we found that regardless of the disability or the experiences, a lot of people struggled and faced challenges when trying to verify their identity. or to use, for example, facial recognition, Touch ID, the fingerprints. We also found that, I think some of the talks this morning, they mentioned about making financial information more easy to understand, right? More simplified, and maybe AI could be, the way to do it. We actually found that a lot of our participants, they do use AI on their daily lives, for work, to help them with their studies. However, they all shared a strong distrust in AI for handling or helping them with their finances. And this makes sense, right? Because disabled people have been historically targeted by scammers, older people as well. So they do share a strong distrust in AI products, AI assistants, chatbots. So it's something very interesting that we found, that even though they agree that AI can be very helpful, for example, to making financial information more easily accessible, they found that, well, they don't trust AI as much. For people with learning disabilities and people who are neurodiverse, we found that simple things like, for example, remembering their password was something that could be a barrier. And most apps, really, they don't think about these things. And without a password, people cannot access their accounts, and they got locked out of their finances, which can be very troubling for a lot of people. Now, in terms of security and privacy concerns, we also found, as part of these workshops, that future financial technologies should try to embed privacy-enhanced mechanisms, especially for disabled people. Some participants, they shared that they fear that their financial data can be stolen, especially if they are using their banking app in public. For example, someone who is blind and uses a screen reader, and if they are, I don't know, public transportation, and they are trying to get their statements, someone can hear that and store that information. Simple things. Some participants also found that it was really difficult to obtain photo ID when they were creating an account, or to verify their identity, as I said. And something that, again, in terms of perceptions around their disability, I don't know if you know this, but for many financial institutions in the UK, people have the option to disclose their disability status. So these institutions can potentially provide a more personalized experience for them, which in theory can be very helpful, right? But actually, our participants share that they don't like doing that, because they fear that they will be discriminated, or they will be, the people will treat them differently. So when people are designing financial technologies, they should also consider the perceptions around discrimination and disabled customers. As I said before, it was a general lack of trust in the use of AI. Again, I think this is a very interesting finding, especially because of the talks this morning. Yes, our participants agree that AI can be very useful, but they don't trust it. And so, trust should be designed into these financial technologies so disabled people can actually use them effectively. So, to finalize, again, these results will be published in our journal paper very soon, hopefully, fingers crossed. So you can read that in more detail. But I wanted to finish with some key recommendations for designing more inclusive and financial technologies. And remember that these recommendations were co-created with people who actually experience these accessibility barriers. So there is a need for more customizable banking experiences. A lot of our results are based on personal banking because, of course, our industry partner is a big bank. So in terms of making communication more accessible, this was something very important. Also provide multiple biometric authentication methods instead of just providing one option. The idea to make it more accessible, provide alternatives. Easier access to financial information, simple language as was communicated before. Onboarding guides was also something that was considered very useful. Accessibility trained customer service and dedicated chatbots. There's a lot of talks about chatbots, right? For financial support. The idea is that these chatbots are trained with data from disabled customers so they can actually provide more accessible and inclusive support. Other things, for example, accessible contracts. People said that sometimes they are not able to actually sign a contract because the contract is not accessible. So providing alternatives, alternative formats is very important. And finally, as I said, trustworthy AI is something that should be considered and how to design more trustworthy AI systems embedded in financial technologies. So as I said before I finish, we hope to publish these results in full very soon. And thank you very much. And yeah, if you want to talk, I'm here until the end of this session.